So we could technically just render these spheres or just points directly as some other direct emissive source, meaning we just put like a constant shader on it and you just have those little white dots floating in there. You could do that, especially if you knew you were just going to make them glow or multiply them times the smoke later in comp. But like I said before, I want to just use a geometry light here to finish the deal. It's a little bit more expensive, but it won't be too bad. So let's say vol particles, and that can point to that thing we just made. Oh, first of all, it's a geometry light. Area light, again, turn these off. We don't need to set a material for this one. They can just be a white light. It's fine. But yes, point to the thing we just made. So particles out, like so. Definitely do not enable a viewport. And we'll just hide this and just to see what it looks like. Though, as I have already said a few times, this is probably too many. So we're going to have to go thin them out. But let's just get started with this anyway. Let's see what we get. Should be pretty fast. There we go. So I don't really actually see too much of anything. We can always look at it. Volume particles direct. It does seem like it's doing a great deal. But it's like there's probably even so many. Maybe we just need to make it bigger or maybe more intense. It's making it very bright. But I don't see like individual ones, which is interesting. Yeah, well, so what I figure we'll need to do, because there's so many, it seems to just be a wash of light. Let's get rid of a lot of them. So coming back to here, let's make a wrangler that says, let's randomly delete them, again based off of their ID. So you can generate a random number from 0 to 1 based off of the ID, like so. But we could say if that random number is greater than some threshold, then we'll kill that point. So remove point, 0, point num. So they're all getting removed, it looks like now. So there you go. So as we do this, you can see we're thinning it out the herd there, so to speak. And it's consistent because, again, the ID doesn't change. So in our case, let's just do 1/10 of the original amount. So ba-boom, ba-boom. So let's see what that looks like. So this was frame 62, of course. I don't know why it's surprising me every time. I'll save this picture too here. But hopefully by thinning out a lot of these, most of that light will go away, and then we can make the light brighter to get individual ones to stand out. Let's see. That might actually be starting to do it. So you can see individual ones here and there. Let me just go out here and say, let's just do the thing. Let's go all the way. So not bad. We can kind of see points, although it's hard with the general fuzziness of this preview render, but you can definitely see the individual points down there. This will probably just be a thing we'll need to just do a full render to see. But so far, so good. Let's see. Let us do maybe even less than this. Let's do like very few of these points. So there, I went down from, I did basically did another 10% as many of what we just did. So now we're actually down to 100th of how many we simulated. I don't want to, I'm trying not to add so much light to the outer thing. This is probably better, much less bright. And again, more to the point, we do seem to have individual particles in here. So we're running in against the fact that we're rendering at half resolution, first of all. These points are quite small, as you can imagine. But I don't know. I think we actually can pretty clearly, now that we're letting the render resolve, this is what I'm trying to get. Trying to get little points of light here and there. So I think we got it. So very, very bright, it seems, with 64 on the vol particles thing here. But yeah, but this is what I want. So just little extra dots just to add some little bit more magical detail. Not this much magical detail, although I don't know, maybe this actually would have been fine. Now I'm wondering. This kind of seems cool all of a sudden. But no, I want to keep our eyes focused on the middle here, on this bright. Once we make everything bright, it just becomes, no, I'm afraid it becomes noise. So this is good. And as usual, we could always play this element up or something in comp if we wanted to. In the meantime, I think that's good. I think we did it. So save that, and time to render this out overnight, I think. So go over to our mantra node. I'll say that this is the mantra beauty, meaning like the main part. We never actually set up where these frames are being sent to, so put job/render/ the name of this node, version 0 dot frame number dot exr. And because this is going to be one of these overnight renders, I'm going to turn that off. And what else do we want to do? Let's render one frame while we're here. We can keep this on ray tracing. You can set this to physically based rendering. It's probably not going to make much of a difference here. Mostly because we're not doing that much that's physically based, first of all. And there's really not that much difference between physically based and ray tracing anyway in Mantra. It's mostly just how some materials are implemented. But anyway, let's render this one frame. So not sequence, just the one frame. See what that looks like. And if it looks good, it'll give us the confidence to render overnight. In fact, actually, before I've already told it to start, but let me cancel it, actually. You know what? No, let's render it. I'm sorry. I want to show you how increasing the resolution on that the middle element will be easy for us because we generated it procedurally. But let's have what it is now so we have something to compare against. So we'll reconvene in a few minutes. So there's our frame. You can see there's actually more detail in the alpha here for some of this, but the point is, yeah, seems right. We could definitely see all of the little dots that I wanted. Maybe we'll want more dots later, but this seems fine for now. The last thing I want to do before doing a large render overnight, which is this element here in the middle, the twister, so to speak. Let's just up-res it. Let's up-res it quickly and very, very easily right now. If we come in here, remember what I was saying before. This is the volume. It's division size 0.1, not bad. But so that's what we have. We have 0.1 sampling a 0.1 voxel size thing here. So now I want to take a moment to increase resolution. So 0.05 for this. So now this has more resolution, which means that this noise can have more resolution, which you saw there. And that means now this thing is still 0.2, or 0.1 rather. So the output here is still going to be 0.1, or 0.099999 apparently. So it might actually look a little bit better anyway, because now this 0.1 is sampling a 0.05. So that could be a little bit improved. But the point is that we need to come here now and change this to 0.05. It's going to make this volume deform thing take longer, as we saw before. But ultimately, when we're rendering frames that took 4 minutes, at least on my computer, to render anyway, you can see how it's still going down here. It's not really that big of a deal. So now this output here is 0.05. Good enough. Good enough. I guess technically we do transform it up to be a little bit bigger, but that's not the point. So there you go. We've up-resed it. Let's see what that looks like. It's just gonna have it render right to here, so we should be able to scrub back and forth, and it should look somewhat different. And so here it is with the higher resolution. There's the lower. You can see it's noticeably better. I think it actually even integrates better, but in any case, you get so much more detail, especially with the temperature streaking brightness stuff down here. Yeah, I mean everywhere. It's much more noticeably high res, especially at the full rendered res image size here. So there you go. So I'm happy with that. And honestly, that's it. So let's take a well-earned break, have this render overnight. Seeing as I am going to have it render overnight, I would just mention that I mean, this took long enough to render as it is. 5 minutes on my computer. My computer is not too shabby. If you have power to spare, you can reduce a lot of this graininess here. I mean, a lot of this graininess we're not going to see anyway. But if you did want to reduce this graininess, change your stochastic samples here. Go from 4 to 8. So double it. And it's going to make anything that's a volume render is now going to take twice as long to render, because we went from 4 to 8. But it will look much, much, much better than it used to. Again, at least in these very thin areas. To reiterate, if it's a thin area already, that means it's probably not going to show up much when you composite it over something else. But in order to get this quality to be as high as it can be, if you have the time, because again, this is going to render overnight for me at least, you can see how much better it looks. So we went from that to that, that to that. And it's going to make everything look somewhat better too, but it's most noticeable, especially in these thinner areas. But it will look better everywhere. Like it'll look better here, where there's this kind of light graininess going on, but yeah, it's going to take longer. But if it doesn't matter, then might as well do it.